Hello and welcome back to another episode of the It's Not Orange podcast. We can finally celebrate an away win. Ian Evatt's tenure as Blackpool manager starts off with a 2-1 victory away at Peterborough. It was an important win, obviously 24 versus 23rd, and Scott Banks' moment of magic allowed us to celebrate wildly in the away end and send the Blackpool fans home and away both happy with the 3 points. Joining me to review this game, first and foremost, is Josh. Welcome back, mate. It's been probably about a year and a bit, but
yeah, it's probably been a while. But yeah, no, thanks for the invite, Tom. Yeah, looking forward to obviously an away win, talking about it. So yeah, nice change from recent weeks.
Yeah, absolutely. Martin, finally, I think we met, start of the game, sat together, talked about the game. Finally, for the first time since creating this podcast, that is a pleasure to see you on Saturday, mate. And how are you doing?
I'm great. No, it was really good. It was really good. It was one. I think I'll remember that day for a very long time for many reasons. But it was brilliant to spend some
that impact on people, mate. You know.
I know, mate. You know what? It's also lovely for one or two people to come up to us and sort of say, "Oh, well done on the pod and all those." I think I don't get that on my own. I don't know if you get it on your own, but maybe they just recognise the two of us together. I don't know, but it was dead nice. So yeah, it was a good day. Got home late, but who cares? It was great. Really good.
Yeah. It's the accent, mate. It's very un-northern, so they recognise it quite quickly.
Yeah, that's right.
And welcome back, Peter. It was a much more sober Peter than I expected, who said he'll be in the pub by 10, but actually got just there before the game started, didn't you? Because the trains were cancelled.
It was a nightmare. What was going on? That's a drive.
Yeah. Well, I think we're all sober and watch the game. We can talk about it with a clear conscience. I think it's the first time all of us have been on the pod and have attended a game as well at the same time. So let's get straight into it then. I will share my screen if it allows me to. Welcome everybody in the chat as well. Welcome Craig, welcome MB. Nice to have you in. Please get involved. When we talk about subjects, it'd be great to hear your opinions on them as the even goes on. But I'll quickly share my screen so we can talk about the lineup. And I'll do this a bit differently to today as I usually do. Martin, if you can see that, I will zoom in a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
On the Blackpool average position. So the lineup itself, obviously Peacock, Farrell, Ashworth, Lyons, Horsford and Casey make sort of the back four up. We had Hamilton, Evans, Bowler, Brown, Fletcher and Bloxham. He didn't really have too much of a choice with the lineup, did he, Martin, in a sense that it was a case of what we had available, obviously with 3 or 4 youth players on the bench?
Yeah, you would never have thought, would you, at the start of the season we'd be in this position in terms of squad depth being so limited. But injuries are injuries, and that's the way it is. But he pretty much went with the only lineup he could have done. I think Banks is making his way back to fitness, so it made sense that he was on the bench, and we obviously enjoyed the Brazilian-like skills of CJ Hamilton once again under about his 19th different manager. So it's all good, isn't it? For CJ.
Yeah. I think I turned around to Peter a few times. He's a fan of CJ. I don't see how after Saturday, but Josh, I'll talk about the shape more than anything. Obviously, what we had, what Evatt had to his weaponry, or the armory, should I say, was very limited, but he obviously did a little something different with it. It was great to see sort of different shape at the back. Obviously, you can see there the back three in with Ashworth and Hamilton pushing up a bit more on the right hand side, Evans sitting in that middle role with Bowler quite well just behind Bloxham, Fletcher dropping a bit more deep, and surprisingly Brown's average position there just behind Fletcher, at just forward of the Peterborough's half. Obviously his position was quite everywhere, wasn't he, with his energy, but his average position allowed Evans to kind of sit back, whether we'll discuss his performance in the second, Evans that is, but he used Evans more as the deep line midfield maker, maybe sort of the battler in midfield, and Brown was the energy to lead the press. And one thing that sort of came off watching it back yesterday and being at the game, obviously, was that I think Evatt, he said there's a lot he didn't like about the game and small bits that he did like, which is great for him, to be honest. But Brown probably tried to lead the press more so than anyone. It wasn't quite cohesive with the middle of the park, but with Evans, should I say, but it certainly was with the defence and Brown making that I think it gave us quite an impetus in the game, despite the quality not being there. It's good to see Brown, the real Brown, come into play a little bit more than we probably have seen in recent weeks.
Well, yeah, like I say, it was a nice change to actually see some form of press on Saturday. I know, obviously, with Bruce, I think we let teams obviously build up possession from the back and move the ball forward too easily and get through us. And obviously, that's the form that we've had in recent weeks. I think that's been a big problem of why we're where we are in the table at the moment. But yeah, I think with the formation, I think obviously the personnel, we kind of knew who was going to be in that first 11. But yeah, it was obviously the big question was whether he was going to stick with his kind of back three preferred formation. Obviously, how he ended with Bolton, and obviously he did go ahead with still sticking that formation. I was surprised having Lyons at right centre back. I didn't expect him to be there, to be honest. I thought if he was to play a back three, it would be probably Horsfall, Casey, and Ashford left centre back. Like I say, he's played in the back in the middle centre back positions in the past, and obviously CJ left wing back and Lyons right wing back. So it was interesting to see why he's picked Lyons there, and like I say, he did outperform it than what I expected. To be fair to Lyons, I thought he had a really good game, but I think that was kind of the interesting thing for me is how he was going to set up and like I say, whether he was going to continue with the formation that he preferred towards the end at Bolton.
Yeah, I think he used Ashworth in similar positions, didn't he? And he did like him there as well. So I think Ashworth really suits being where he played, to be honest with you. And like you say, obviously with Hickway being out, he could have gone the other way. But I was thoroughly impressed with. I know the opposition wasn't great, but at the same time, it was a case of they worked on that shape clearly. And I think Josh as well, just to back that up, when we had players start coming back, and when we're all there, we saw the shape in the game and stuff. If we have a bit more quality in those positions, such as maybe Banks comes into the middle, Bowler goes out wide, where Hamilton was as an example. I'm not saying he's going to play wing back, but maybe plays a bit more forward. We start to see different types of quality on the ball and maybe better decision making, a better first touch as an example, and things starts to come off. Obviously, we've got Imre to come in that position as well. And when Imre's back, Josh, it's going to be another dimension to this game. And I think Evatt's really excited about seeing these players come back.
Yeah, definitely. I think, like I say, the absentees that are coming back over the next few weeks, and I think it's a matter of just getting through till the end of November, really, trying to get through these fixtures as best as we can with the squad that's available. And there's some really exciting players that I think would really suit Evatt's formation that he really wanted to play on Saturday. I think Honeyman and Morgan would be brilliant in the centre midfield as well to accompany Brown and that energy that Evatt really wants. Imre potentially on the right wing back position. I think it's perfect. It's something that I'm really looking forward to see. So yeah, once we get those absentees back, like I say, at the end of this month, end of November, early December, I think we'll see us hopefully moving up the table and Evatt seeing the best of Evatt's formation too.
Yeah, I agree with you there. Peter, we'll come to you on the next subject because I've got it lined up especially for you. But Martin, you listened to, it might be, Martin, you listened to Bowler's interview today and it came late on. I think it was late in the day on Tangerine TV. I've managed to watch it back, and a couple of people said to me, and the actual same person replied to me on X today to say, I told you not to read too much into Brown's interview, which literally let on the fact that it's completely different with Evatt and they're working harder and they're fitter, etc. He said, don't read too much into Browns, and he replied today saying, well, I told you not to read into Browns, but you can certainly read into Bowlers. So two interviews which gave, it was you can call it throwing Bruce under the bus, you can call it complimentary to Evatt. I think what stuck with me with Bowler's interview was he said that maybe we didn't realise how bad in layman's terms we actually was, and then we've noticed that now, and he believes he's now getting up to fitness and he's getting that match sharpness back in him. So we might not have seen the best of Bowler yet, or the fact we know we haven't seen the best of Bowler yet, but the interview was very articulate and it was very complimentary to how precise Evatt is being with not only watching videos back and teaching them how he wants to play. It kind of gave me Critchley vibes the first time. When Medine used to say he's probably the most detailed manager he's worked with. Evatt's kind of getting that treatment now with a couple of the players already.
I think players these days do want detail, don't they? We're very quick sometimes to dismiss football as being a bit basic and maybe don't need too many instructions. I think that's the old way of looking at it. I think nowadays they do want instructions because football's talked about so much, and we all know a bit more about football than probably we did 30 years ago in terms of maybe understanding the intricacies of the game. So they've clearly got someone in Evatt who's very detailed and wants to give them very clear instructions, but with that level of sort of technical detail that you probably only get from somebody who's young and got the fire in the belly and has got the enthusiasm for it. And Bowler already alludes to in that interview that he's going to be playing centrally. Evatt in that role, which is interesting. Saturday was a slow burner for him in terms of playing in that position, but I believe he will get better because he clearly wants to. Even at the age of 26, like you said, you can still learn a lot, and I think he if he wants to be in the team, it might be the only way he's in it. Because I don't really think he's a wing back. Preston did that with him and it killed him. So,
he could play in the front three, couldn't he? I was very conscious when we re-signed him that a lot of people said, "Oh, he can't play as a number 10. He can't." I always thought he would be able to play as a number 10, but he's clearly more comfortable out wide. That's probably not going to be a massive option unless we play a front three. I think the nice thing about this,
sorry, Pete, I think the nice thing about this to add to that is with this formation, already seen him change it with Banks came on to a 4 at the back. He can go 4-3-3. He can probably 4-2-3-1. He can go to quite a few things. And I think his time out of the game has allowed him to see potentially his downfalls at Bolton where he wasn't adaptable. But I was going to ask you in the 10 position, you said you could see him play there. Well, I think me and Martin were talking quite a lot in the game. There was a moment where he had the ball in the final third. He had the ball. He had the ability to pass. And I generally mean this, whether he hasn't got the confidence to pass to Hamilton because he knows the first touch or what he wants to do next isn't there. But what he did is spraying out wide. He turned back on himself and ran himself into trouble and lost the ball. And they were on the counter attack. And then from that counter attack, he had the ball on the edge of the box. And instead of just either clearing it like League One, football sometimes is, or finding a pass out wide, he tried to dribble his way into trouble and they actually nicked the ball back and had another shot. So me and Martin were quite sceptical about him playing there, but he did start to develop and grow into the game. So I don't know how you thought he was initially in the game, but I didn't think it was the right decision early doors once we saw sort of the first sort of half from him.
We wouldn't have scored the first goal without him being in that position, would we? Because it was all his work, really. And, it was you could almost say it was his goal, to be fair. If it hadn't been from his running from that central spot and his tenacity to get the shot in and, it was blocked and there was a real old scramble, wasn't there? Yeah. So, he's not afraid of having a shot, is he?
No. And I think I'd rather have, like you say, that tenacity. And to be fair, reading from that interview, he didn't do him any harm being in that game. And
I haven't heard that. Where was that?
It came on later on today. I'd advise to go and to watch it. It's a brilliant interview. It's ridiculous. I don't know if I'm surprised. I know they're trained, but these interviews are ridiculously articulate, and I'm really surprised by how Evatt speaks, if I'm honest. Like, I didn't watch post-match interviews with him at Bolton. He obviously got slated left, right and centre, but I'm really intrigued with everything he's got to say and how he sees taking this football club forward. So the preview for Scunthorpe's even brilliant, even though it's just an FA Cup game against Scunthorpe. It really means a lot to him and he wants to win and he's not going to take it lightly. So really good to see. But yeah, we'll talk about our first goal in a minute. I do want to talk about one thing. The reason that I said potentially Bowler playing in this position is because if at the start of the show we had Hamilton's average position, he was practically a winger, so he had a lot of coverage from either lines, playing in sort of more towards the right back position, of course, and maybe covering down the wing, and that's the beauty of a free, because obviously Ashworth can cover, and then the back three can cover sort of where we go into a 4 sort of thing. So if Bowler was there, but he played as advanced as Hamilton did, I thought he would have had great success down that side, ironically, on Saturday. I know the opposition went poor, but watching the game back, I don't want to slate CJ, but it was one of his worst games in Tangerines, in my opinion. And every time he received the ball and we tried to go on a break, I watched it back yesterday, and he would try and play a pass around the corner, or he'd try and play a pass into the middle, and he did not look for 3 or 4 passes in that first half. And there was 2 or 3 times we got played down the right-hand side. I think it was really early doors, like 3rd minute. And his first touch basically plays it into their left back. And, they just take the ball off him and I think the ball goes out for a throw-in. But we had 2 or 3 chances where we could counter really well. And this is what I mean about better players, Pete, coming back in, because when he's received the ball, you want to see something like Scott Banks where he can cut inside and get a crossing or have a shot. But unfortunately, we've seen with too many times where he can't touch. His first touch is appalling, or the pass he makes isn't beneficial to the team, and actually it has the reverse effect and plays us deep into trouble.
I think the best you can say about CJ on Saturday, and I love CJ, was that he got about the pitch. That's about it.
Yeah, I think he was like 2 out of 11 successful passes, and I think Evatt. I don't know. I don't know if it's pace. Josh, I don't know what you think, but I don't know what it is with Hamilton, and clearly a really likable guy. Clearly on his day he is trouble. Clearly in League One in a 4, if you're playing him behind or he comes on as an impact sub, he has got his benefits. But when we're trying to play the next level of football, it was fairly detrimental on Saturday. And I don't want to dig him out completely, but he didn't have too much benefits to the team on Saturday, and those blind passes were just kind of alien, really, to even him doing that. But maybe it was an instruction, just didn't work off. But it seemed quite lazy decision making.
Yeah, and like I said, it gave up quite a lot of chances in that, especially in that first half to Peterborough. I think they had a ridiculous amount of shots against us. I know it didn't feel like they had that amount of shots, but obviously there was a lot of blocks and shots from distance in that first half, which I'm sure Evatt was furious about, to be honest. Like I said, I was watching Evatt from the touchlines more than probably what I was watching in the game. And every stray pass from like CJ or Evans, he was just pulling his hair out and really frustrated. And so, which I like to see, to be honest. He's always got these expectations and from his players and what he wants to achieve. And like I say, I was wondering in that first half, how many of these players will actually be in his side from January onwards, or even from the summer next year? I'm sure he wants obviously better players, and it'll be very interesting to see how. What will happen over the next months and how much of an Evatt squad will appear and who will actually be still remaining.
Yeah, some damning comments in the chat, but just to catch up with a couple of them, Bowler needs to be given a free roll out wide. That's how you get the best out of him. According to the interview today, Evatt is going to see him more centrally, and I'm excited to see. When we wanted Karamoko to play as a number 10, didn't we? We said, Apter. We said it years ago, didn't we, Martin? When Apter was on loan in the Championship,
yeah,
and we needed some creativity because we didn't just have it. I said, why don't you bring him as a 10, and he can maybe start to go left and right and have a shot like Apter usually does. Maybe Bowler's got that, and like Pete said, if it wasn't for his tenacity inside the box, which didn't turn out to be an incredible goal, but a goal nonetheless, enabled us to sort of take the league. So, but he has played league football long enough now, but still doesn't contribute defensively when we don't have the ball.
He doesn't. He really doesn't. I mean,
it's just weak, unfortunately.
It's just not his thing, is it? I almost see him as Sonny Carey was in the second half of the season last season. He's got that ability to score plenty of goals.
I don't think he had. What, Bowler, you mean? Sorry.
Bowler, yeah.
Yeah. If he carries the ball, if he drifts in and carries the ball like Kerry did, to be fair to him, he's carried on that at Charlton as well. So every credit to Kerry for carrying that on. But we just want to see a bit more ball carrying ability from Bowler, a bit like we used to, or as the comments have just said. Let me just find it. Tony, sorry, apologies. If you give him the ball in space in the cam, he gets his touch and a shot. He doesn't necessarily have to beat his man. That's the perfect. Yeah, is an absolutely fair comment as well. We'll talk about the goal of name this, Martin. What a goal! It's one of the best goals I've seen in the away end. It was like you play football in the playground and it just falls to someone in the end. But if we take the positives out of the goal, it was good to see Bowler cut into the left and make that space for himself. We roared handball despite it coming off the chest, and we all knew it came off the chest. We called it anyway. Ricochets around the box a couple of shots later. He tries to bend it past the keeper. A fairly decent save by Bass, but it rebounds. And obviously, if Kiosa deals with it better, he might be able to get a leg on it away. But he doesn't deal with it very well. And if he couldn't clear it or put it into his net, Fletcher was probably there to tap it in. So a crying shame that it didn't fall to a Blackpool player to get the goal. And more specifically, Bowler would have been great for him to get his first league goal. But it was a relief to double our away tally, and no matter how they go in, we're due that bit of luck because we've missed some good chances this season, but also haven't created enough. So when we did have the ball into the box, it was great to see it actually in the back of the net, because previous to that, we didn't obviously create a lot in the first half an hour.
No, I mean it's the sort of goal you expect to see in League 1 and 2, isn't it? And we probably don't score enough of those scruffy, scrambly goals, especially away from home. I feel for all the people that have been to watch Blackpool this season, to every game, because we have had some hellish away trips, and to only see one goal up until Saturday is scandalous, really, isn't it? So it was good to see it go in, even though, I mean, we had a vantage point where we managed to get right behind a pillar, didn't we?
Yeah.
Away at Peterborough, like Stockport's. If anyone's ever been to Stockport and sat in the home end for whatever reason, it's absolutely dreadful, the stand. I just felt that you couldn't really see very much. So when it went in, I had no clue what had gone on. I saw Bowler have his second shot or whatever, and then it went, and I didn't. I just celebrated
we saw the players wheel away. I couldn't quite believe we scored. I was expecting a flag, a whistle, or something. I just didn't believe we scored. So because it was such a melee, I thought something was going to go up. But Yosh, it was obviously decent to see. Take the. Oh, sorry, mate. Go on.
I had terrible visions of losing 1 or 2-0 that game, simply because he wouldn't have had enough time to implement the plan into the players, and I had very little confidence in that squad going into the game. So just to take the lead was brilliant. So I was quite happy with that to start with. But it's always good to see an away end celebrating like that, even though it was one of the worst goals you'll ever see. Who cares?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yosh, it was literally 3 minutes later where we found ourselves intercepting the ball in the middle and Bloxham being played out wide, I think, by Brown. Plays a tremendous ball into the box, and we'll come on to Bloxham's performance in a minute, but he plays a tremendous ball into the box. And I don't know whether to criticise Fletcher, but he wasn't at the races with the cross, because the ball literally is on a plate for it to be slammed home for the second, literally in 2 minutes. And there wasn't literally only Fletcher in the box, but he was being marked, but he was ahead of his man, but he wasn't up to speed with the game. It was a crying shame, really, because Bloxham's cross deserved to be finished. And obviously it would have been an absolute killer blow for Peterborough, who looked low on confidence on the day.
No, exactly. It was a really good. I didn't realize how good of a chance, obviously, until watching the highlights at the time. I didn't realize how much of a good chance it was. But yeah, Bloxham, to be credit to him, I think we've had a few doubts of him in recent weeks in terms of his motivation, his fitness, and everything like that. I thought he put a proper shift in on Saturday. He was non-stop. He was on the pitch for 94 minutes, which is unheard of from recent weeks. But yeah, he did have that quality as well in terms of the crossing and the run that he made. So yeah, it was really one of the biggest positives of the night, actually, to see him playing for nearly the full game, but also having some quality moments too, which is only a good position, obviously, with our lack of strikers we're going to have over the next few weeks.
Yeah, no, absolutely agree. And I think as much as he wants to play out wide, he's probably going to be forced to play up front now, isn't he? Because we've got wing backs now instead of wingers. And if he does go to change shape, then Bloxham is an option there. But I think when he came off, he hugged Evatt, and Evatt looked at him and he gave him a cheeky smile. And at the end of the game, it was great to see Bloxham smiling, because in recent weeks I've been struggling to work out where that encouraging characteristic player has gone from last season, where he was dinking over defenders' heads and running onto it. And I want to see that back for Bloxham, and that came into his game a little bit later on in the game as well. So MB's put a perfect point, Pete. It's great, refreshing to see us press and enforce mistakes. And as I alluded to earlier, I do think Brown led the press really well. I don't think he probably had the cohesion in the middle for us to press when we go 1, 2, 3, go. We didn't go. He went, but no one else went. And then maybe the defence would go and he wouldn't be there. But I caveat that with it was Evatt's first game, three games into being appointed, and you could already see, Pete, the benefits of what Evatt wants to do when he wants to run harder than the opponent and press and make mistakes.
I think Bloxham makes it shows that completely. He was totally devoid of any confidence. Didn't even look like it could be asked when Brucey was in charge, and he ran for 90, like Josh said, 94 minutes completely. Where's that come from? Because he hasn't shown that at all. And the rest of the players did that as well. You can't fault the commitment and the energy of the players on Saturday. And, I think that Brown led it really. He was my man of the match. He really drove from the midfield. I was surprised to see him up there, but then we've only really got him and Evans at the moment. And he did it really well, but he was probably a bit too ahead of the Blackpool players, like you said. But he had a really good game.
I think he got Evatt's ideology, and I just don't think Evans is one for a press. And I think the defence kept their shape beautifully well. Fletch dropping deep helped us when we were in attack, but I just think it all needs to come together a little bit more. This is no criticism of the team. I think as the game went on, I actually thought we became more comfortable and we start to see what they wanted a bit more. And after the goal, I was fairly confident we would hold the lead and, if anything, try and go again on the counter. But we'll come on to that in a minute. Martin, Posh's goal. I don't want to talk about the goal somewhat. I do want to talk about a man that. Who just put it in the chat? Yeah, Sean. I think Evans needs to go back on the bench. He's a liability. Can't understand why he takes all the set pieces. His delivery is dreadful. Need Hunterman and Morgan back soon. I think Sean also said it's not just CJ, and it wasn't just CJ. The two players that stuck out like a sore thumb for the wrong reasons. Not that I want to continually be negative. Martin was Evans with alongside CJ. I think he gave the ball away 4 or 5 times, but not only that, he was wearing the armband and continually pointing and fairly moaning. And I think I shouted a couple of times, like, encourage your players, don't sit there moaning when you're the captain of this football club. And there was a couple of times where he could have put his foot in and really win the ball. And ironically, the lead up to their goal was one of those. He was in a 50-50. He kind of put his foot in. They won the ball. They counter-attacked, won the corner. And from the corner, it was Garbutt who had a fairly decent strike of the ball. Peacock Farrell was slightly, he was... his vision was blocked. We all expected the offside, but looking back at it, if Morgan or someone else scored that, would probably say crack on with it. It's a fairly good finish, and it's 1-1. But it's somewhat another set piece in the second phase, and I think it was another avoidable goal away from home. But more so Evans in that middle. I'm not blaming him solely for the goal, clearly, but it was a few times in that game where he could have won the ball in a 50-50. It looked like he really didn't want to do it.
I think that's a bit harsh on him personally.
I
know what you're saying, and I thought he had a few. He certainly wasn't passing it very well, but I thought he got around again, and I thought he was getting stuck in quite a bit, much more than CJ was. I don't think he was anywhere near as bad as CJ on the day, but I thought I quite like the look of him at times. And like I say, we haven't got anyone else at the moment. But yeah, his passing, which is short passing, was not the best. But I thought he was, I think it's a bit. I think people have been a bit harsh on him, but that's just my personal opinion.
Martin,
I have to agree with you, Tom. To be honest, I think we know what Evans is capable of, but he's been like this for nearly 12 months. The snarling at other people, the pointing fingers, the shaking of the head, and not maybe taking enough responsibility. He's supposed to be a great passer of the ball at this level, and we know he is. Something's not really clicking with him, because you're right. It was the simple passes that he was giving away. It probably was 5, 6, 7 times. And he just doesn't look, he just doesn't look like the player that he was to start with. And I don't get it really. As somebody that's had so many injuries, you think that he doesn't inspire you with much confidence that he's got enthusiasm. Do you know what I mean? He reminds me a bit of Norburn. I said that the other week. Norburn, when he was here, I expected a lot of him, but he looked like he'd rather be anywhere else than playing in our midfield. Evans has that look about him at the moment, so I don't know what's going on with him. But I just think when everyone's fit, he might struggle to get involved.
I will.
Josh can pass the ball, is a ridiculously intelligent footballer, can cross the ball, can play long balls, can lead by example. Was up there with Kevin De Bruyne's of the world under this Bruce's first season with us, and he looked like a world beater that we needed to rely on, really. All of those things have amalgamated into something happening in terms of this season, and I don't like to dislike players, but the more he puts on the shirt and wears the armband, you want to see a leader of these players. And what we don't need after only scoring one away goal and just sort of being equalised on, is a player that's going to probably point out our faults more than encourage. Because if we go back to Holloway's tenure here, if we scored, he would say, it doesn't matter, you just crack on, boys, you're going to score a goal and we're going to win this game no matter what. And he has that mentality about him. We don't need that loser mentality, do we?
No, and like I said, I actually said last week that I felt Evans could actually thrive under Evatt.
I think he still can, but we know he's got the ability, don't we?
Yeah, exactly. And I think about Huddersfield away last year and thinking, wow, what a player we've got here, and passing it around, good players. And yeah, I thought, like I say, Evatt has always had a deep lying midfielder who can pass the ball, like a Josh Sheehan and others. And I thought Evans could really potentially step up on Saturday and try and get that position his for the future with a new manager in place. But he gave away the ball so many times and in really bad positions as well, just straight to their players, and then they were running straight at our back three, and unfortunately some blocks here and there kind of obviously didn't let them score. But yeah, it was just where he was losing it was the issue. I thought on Saturday it was just it was just not a great game for him. Like, and as Pete said, he did move around the pitch well and tried to get around with a few tackles here and there, but I say the amount of chances that he gave up due to his passing was just not good enough.
It's a good free kick, wasn't it?
It was a decent free kick, to be fair.
I thought that was in, actually.
I think it scraped the post. He was shocked it didn't go in as well. But I'm criticising his ability on Saturday. If I'm going to criticise CJ, I'm going to criticise Evans, because as I said, watching the game back last night, I think there was 4 times, like you say, especially in the middle. I think there was a chance when we were on the counter in the second half. He has the ball obviously towards Peterborough's goal, and he just sprays the ball left, and he just picks up in the middle of the park and runs forward, and they could have scored quite comfortably from it. I think ends up in Peacock Farrell's arms, but that's not what you need when, you know, if anything, like leading by example, just start to encourage, grab the players and just say, right, come on, you know, even though he wasn't doing the same, like in terms of passing, he just needs to be better as a captain of this football club, in my opinion. But my opinion might differ as it does to Pete. So I did want to quickly talk about, before we talk about the second half, Martin is horseful. He made a massive difference to our recent defensive performances. You can see why he was the captain of Stockport last season. Yeah, in my opinion, captain material. Started off a bit shakily, and I literally mean that, 32 seconds in, colliding with, I forgot who it was in the middle of the park, but he's ended up crawling on the floor, and I thought he's out, and I just thought he's going to get worse, this injury list. But he was fine, and it showed his mentality to sort of carry on in the manner he did. But one tackle I wanted to point out was straight after we scored. They had a counter and they're in on the box, and he gets around his man and pokes it away with his left leg, and it looked an incredible tackle from the away end. But watching it back, it was really well measured, and it was not panicked, and it was certainly something we needed, because in moments of stupidity, it might have been a penalty on another day, but he showed his experience, as Big Dog Walker said. I think he plays a massive part in our season alongside Casey.
Well, we always knew that it was a coup getting him, or at least we thought it was a coup getting him. And then, of course, he has that injury that you seem to be playing with in pre-season, and he's never really had a run. But when he did get in the team for that last game under Bruce, he kind of got hooked at half-time, didn't he? I always thought he was maybe the scapegoat for things. But he was every bit on Saturday what I expect him to be. You know, a leader, a warrior, a proper League One centre-back who's got some ability on the ball. But first and foremost, he is a lamppost. He will head the ball out. He reminds me, we've had some great...
He's a lamppost. I love that.
Like the old days under Allardyce, we had like Tony Butler. He was a proper lamppost defender, and Keogh's a bit like that as well. You know, somebody who just goes, right, I am a big tall unit. I'm getting my head stuck in, and I'm gonna give my all, because I don't want. He enjoys stopping people scoring goals. That's what a defender does, and I think too many of our defenders this season have not really had that. Heckway is that kind of player, but he's not.
I thought so recently. Well, I thought ironically against Wickham, Heckway had his best game in Tangerine. I thought he was exactly what Horsfall was doing, wasn't he? So
I imagine that if those three were fit, you'd play him. The only thing, there's not a lot of pace there, but if you've got pace at wing back, maybe that makes up for it. But no, I thought he was outstanding on Saturday, and he was every bit the player that I've been saying in the chat for months. That I really thought. Well,
I think when we signed him, me and you were like,
yeah,
gushing over him almost, and he's been playing every game, and we've just been hiding in the chat.
You've got to build centre back. So important to get partnerships. You can't come in for a bit and then not play and then get hooked after 45 minutes and then expect to come back. You have to have rhythm. You have to, get to know your goalkeeper, get to know your fullbacks, get to know your centre back pairings or whatever. And he's not had that opportunity, but he will do now because Evatt is clearly more intelligent than Steve Bruce and will work out straight away. He's got to be the main man at centre back with Casey and whoever else. But yeah, brilliant to see him have the game that we knew he was going to have eventually, I think.
It shows how well Casey adapts to the players because he always looks in place. Right. Whoever's next to him.
But he plays every week, doesn't he?
So he does, but he still has to play with different players, doesn't he? And he looks comfortable with anyone.
Yeah.
I thought at the start of the season, Ehekwe didn't do him any favours because he was constantly trying to cover for the space he was leaving. But now Ehekwe is improving and Horsfall's already naturally being better. We're starting to see the best of Casey again, which is a really good point, Pete. Josh, do you think he played Lyons at centre-back? Not that Ashworth is slow, but because we've got two bulky centre-backs there, he makes up for a little bit of pace just in case they're getting behind on the wings. He can come across and cover, and the two centre-backs will cover the space inside the box.
Yeah, he's probably the pace angle in the back three. Like I say, I don't think
he's good in the slide tackle as well, but he's obviously not physically. So
yeah, he's quite small and quite easy to shove off the ball, really, Lyons. But yeah, I think actually he really surprised me, to be fair, in terms of his performance and his defensive abilities. And they say with obviously CJ playing in front of me, didn't have much cover. You saw him in his position, CJ being quite far forward in his right, in pretty much a winger position rather than what you'd think a right winger would be in their average position. So he didn't have much cover in that respect. So in terms of that, I thought he did quite well. But yeah, going back to Horsfall, I thought he was. I said it on Sunday. He's my man of the match. Clearly, the amount of blocks, tackles, headers. He's the kind of player that. Obviously, the next few weeks, I'd say the performances, it's going to be a battle over the next few weeks while we're getting our injuries back. And I think he's definitely the type of players we're going to need in these situations to get through these games and try and get as many points as we can until we get a fully fit squad.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And just to prove your point, I put a tweet out as well. But ball recoveries, 3 interceptions too. But the most amazing thing is 16 clearances, 11 with his head. Ground duels 1 was 3 out of 3, and aerial duels was 3 out of 5. And he didn't commit 1 foul as well. So it's almost, picture perfect when it comes to being that defensive performance we needed. Martin, moving on to the second half, and I put Bowler better, but Pete's probably put me in my place a little bit because I forgot how much of a vital part he did play in our first goal. But we saw the benefit of Evatt's ideology on the hour mark when we had our first, I think maybe our second and third shot of the half. I think we had 5 in the second half in total. I think Hamilton had a little chance on the 48th minute. Nothing really meaningful, but it took until the 59th minute for us to have a couple of swipes at goal. And it ended up with Bowler receiving the ball in a central position, cutting to his left and laying a nice pass to Brown. Maybe could have done a little bit better with his shot. The ball then falls to Fletcher. I think he's trying to dink the goalie, but from the away end, it looks absolutely... And no one really made a comment on it, but I don't know how he's not slammed the ball past the keeper. There was a defender kind of covering the goal, and I think he tries to dink the keeper. But in my opinion, he needs to be doing better in that position, and it should have been 2-1 Blackpool at that point.
Yeah, no, it should have been. I think their threat in the first half was kind of a lot. It was reduced a lot in the second half. I think it's also worth saying, without taking anything away from us, that this is probably the worst Peterborough side they've had in 4 or 5 years. There's no Johnson Clark Harris up front from anymore. There's no Malik Mothersill. There's no Ricky J. Jones. They are bereft of confidence as well, Peterborough, and they didn't get the goals that they possibly could have done in the first half. They were better than us second half. They were, we grew into the game, and as it went on, I think we looked more confident. But Bowler started to kind of find space and get a bit more confident in that role. But Fletcher, this is what you get with Ashley Fletcher, though. He is an erratic. He's an erratic finisher. That's just what he is. It's been like that all his career, The Ashley Fletcher we've seen this season so far, he's been in a team bereft of service, so I have to give him that. But he's he's just not lethal, is it? He has spelled. He's very streaky, like second half of last season, lethal at times, especially in the away games. But this season, he's been struggling for form and confidence. Great goal last week, but just sometimes he technically doesn't look the best. But again, I think when you're not getting too many chances in the game, we're expecting him to kind of like do better with every chance, but he doesn't get many chances. So if that was maybe in a month's time, he might bury that because he'll have had a lot more chances because this team will create more chances than the Bruce team did. So I think maybe there's a bit of there's just a lack of confidence there, and he's not getting 4 or 5 chances a game. He's getting 1 or 2. To be fair to him. But yeah, much better from Bowler, and he just grew into the position. But I think we got more confident as the game went on because I just don't think they were much of a threat. They looked every inch the team down the bottom of us, and that obviously came to pass afterwards, didn't it? With what happened to Ferguson. So yeah.
Go on, Pete. You want to say something?
Well, I just think he's a really good technical player, Fletcher. That's his strength. And I thought he had a good game, especially second half. I know he missed that chance, but he's not a blaster of the ball, is he? He is a tippy-tappy-toed dinker of the ball. He's a GTF rather than an Alan Shearer, if you like. Although he's not as good as either. But you get I thought he really held the ball up well and passed it really intelligently.
I think I don't know if it's a Bruce thing or whatever wants him, but he saw in the initial start of the show Fletcher's ability or his dropping deep almost. I said this weeks ago, but like Harry Kane used to do for Spurs, you'd see him on the centre circle, touching the ball down, passing the ball wide. And I think when Ennis and Taylor come to back to fitness, you'll see him drop deep, but then play the ball wide for then Ennis to get in. And I think he still has a big part to play, and I think Martin's point's valid. I just think when we need goals or need opportunities, you don't need him to be streaky. You need him to finish, and we can't afford to Taylor and him to be streaky when they're in those positions. When Ennis to mop up and score all the goals, we need goals from all angles, and I just think he should have scored personally. I'm not saying he had a bad game, but I just think he should have scored personally. But yeah,
I need to see that again. I haven't really looked at it, so I don't.
Yeah, bang on. Well, 59 minutes, I think, is if you're watching the game back. And NBA, he doesn't win headers. He isn't physical. So we had this, Josh, didn't we, with Beasley, where he's your target man, but he can't win headers. And he is somewhat good at bringing the ball down. But we miss having someone like a Gary Medine, don't we? Because nothing sticks up front at points when we need it. But I think you said it at the start, Josh, that Bloxham is starting to potentially become that man. And as the game went on Saturday, I think Bloxham was tremendous, especially in that second half.
Yeah, I think I'd say they're obviously 2 big men. Like I say, Bloxham's 6'5". I presume Fletcher's 6'3", 6'4". So they're relatively quite tall. But like I say, and Bloxham, he did hold the ball up well, but did I think he won headers? No, I think he doesn't like to win headers. I think he's one who's always trying to chest it down and move the ball that way, which is a shame because obviously he's 6'4", 6'5", which he has got that obviously height benefit on some defenders that he could be winning more headers, but he's not that type of player. So he's obviously trying to bring it down on his chest and playing it off to either the wingers or into the midfield. But yeah, he obviously was battling up front, which is obviously really nice to see and something different that we've not been seeing in recent weeks. And I keep touching it. It's going to be crucial over these next few weeks. I don't think things will be as pretty as what we want it to be. It's just going to be a matter of seeing how many points we can get over these next few weeks while our squad is still threadbare.
Yeah, Martin, I think that's a fair point. It's not going to be pretty, and we did say Peterborough. I put it politely. They were piss poor. If we were a little bit better, they were poor. A better team on the counter attack, such as dare I say it? I don't know. I can name probably 3 or 4 teams, maybe a Bolton. You can even a Stevenage when you got the ball in the box and you've got the ability to score, like they did at Bloomfield Road to be on the first game of the season. When they were in the box, they made their chances, count. And Lisby, who was bitterly disappointing for them, despite being in fairly good form, his finishing was atrocious, his crossing was poor, and everything went through him a bit like it used to with Poku. So I thought we kind of let off on the day. I'm not saying our defence couldn't have dealt with it, but they should have been better, and that's why Ferguson ultimately has been sacked. But I think we'll come on to this point next, and someone said it in the chat. I was going to talk about that a bit later on in the show, but it was a point where there was a break in play. I think it was in the first half, wasn't it? But generally speaking, Craney and Evatt's management of the game, Martin, where I think someone was down on the floor and he, cut a long story short, he got the team over because there was a natural break in play. But one thing I noticed more so than ever was Craney absolutely going in on a few of the players, just really barking out instructions and really getting involved. And Dobby, to be fair to him, I'm not saying he is a part of that sort of fit like he was with Bruce. I know that things have changed now, but it was good to see an assistant talking to a couple of players, but Evatt just dishing out a few instructions here and they're just pointing left and right and really just making sure that they know the game plan. And I think despite it not being pretty, like Yosha said, and it won't continue to be pretty, it was really nice to see a manager focused on the detail. And I think at one point he went actually into the tunnel. I don't know what he was doing, but when I watched the game back yesterday, he went for a while. And then when he came back out and he started talking to a couple of players, I don't know what he did. But he's obviously really watching the game. And I know this is just the basics for any manager, but with the last two we've had who's kind of lost their passion for that, and Critchley the first time around was detailed, and if it's this detailed week in week out with better players, I genuinely see good things for this football club. Not saying we're going to fly up the table, but progression will be made.
I think Evo just went to whiten his teeth down the tunnel.
went to do a 5K.
No, I think what's obvious is that he's going to be very hands-on, but also he was going into that game off 2 or 3 coaching sessions. He's literally coaching the players how he wants them to play during that game, and it'll probably carry on for a bit and it'll settle down eventually. But it's also new, isn't it? But if that's how he's going to be, then I'm all for it, because I don't like a manager who stands there with his hands in his pockets doing nothing. That always worries me a little bit. It's great if you can do that and everything's going well, but most of the time it's not. So you need somebody who's animated. But I love the fact that, like Josh said, I was watching the whole time, and it was quite fascinating to watch him sort of interacting with the bench, interacting with Craney, the players, and he just looked. It looked like they had to win that game to stay up, and we're in October. I think that's the intensity that he's got, and that's what I about it.
It was interesting as well, Pete. One of his values is you run all game and you run harder than your opponent, but also you run off at half time. And I think 9 of the 11 did that. And it was I won't name the two, but I think 9-11, literally as that whistle went, they sprinted back into the dressing rooms, and it was obviously really interesting to see that change of mentality within a couple of days about what he wants and lives and breathes as a football coach.
It was a massive change, and the fact that they took to it as well, because they'd been so far removed from that. That they could easily have just like, oh fuck this, it's going to be, I can't be asked, but they clearly have just bought into it completely. It must be so refreshing in there. Just hope it keeps on like that. And the way he's talking as well, Evo, sounds like there's going to be no room to hide there. They're going to have to keep performing to that sort of level and beyond.
Yeah, absolutely. Josh, we talked pre-show. Banks coming on, I think 70 odd minutes into the game for CJ. There was a change of shape as well, back to a back 4-4-2, maybe a 4-4-2, maybe a slightly different shape to what we were playing. But you obviously alluded to knowing a few Bolton fans and watching Bolton a couple of times on the telly and knowing a bit about them. You said he was very reluctant over the years to change his shape, even when they were losing, even then when they were drawing. But this was a great change of management style from him to bring on Banks and start to change the shape a little bit. Obviously, we'll come on to the goal, but it paid its dues as well.
Yeah, definitely. I think one of the biggest criticisms Evatt had with Bolton fans, especially towards the end, was that he didn't adapt during game. His in-game management was really poor. He wouldn't change formations. He would, even if players were injured, he would have midfielders playing centre back to just keep that back three going. But he's obviously had 9 months out of the game. He's obviously learned some lessons. And like I say, even in his first game with us, he's adapting the formation, changing it to suit the game as he sees it and what's happened the 70 minutes beforehand, and to try and win the game as well. So I think it's just a positive sign that we're going to see moving forward of this kind of new Evatt and how he's going to adapt to situations in games and not being as rigid as what he probably was at Bolton and where his downfall probably ended. So I think it's a really positive thing, and that these 9 months are out of the game, he's hopefully changed, and we're going to see the fruits of that hopefully going forward.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a fair point. And Josh, I'll stick with you. We only had one shot on target in the second half. I think 5 shots in total. I think Hamilton early doors, the 2 from Brown and Fletcher, then Evans's free kick, and Banks being the 5th. If we're going to have one shot on target, that change, and again, please, like we've talked about CJ being unintelligent, etc. But Banks coming on the moment, a bit like Bowler, when you've got such a better footballer on the ball technically, is a few moments before the goal where he picks up the ball and is already looking left and right to see what he can do, and that it's just that composure and the ability to change the game. So first and foremost, he made like a natural impact on the game anyway, but his finish was outstanding. And like I said, if you're going to have one shot on target in the second half, to see it hit the back of the net was unbelievable. And we were kind of shocked at the quality. We've seen it in the cup, didn't we? Forgot who we played now. You have to excuse me, where he scored a couple of goals, but at Bloomfield Road, and we know he's got that ability to do it as well. But the finish is a really difficult one, and it hit the side netting of the goal, didn't it? And I think he was, I don't know if he was relieved to score the goal, but you can just see the players as the ball went in, they were just ecstatic with each other, but just that weight off their shoulders that they know they've scored late on and they've got something to hold on to the game.
No, exactly. I think there's some really good, quick build up as well. Quick build up to get the ball to Banks as well. Like say the pass from Brown was very, just moved it on very quickly onto Banks, and the finish was just seeing that ball hit the back of the net. I think we've all made quite fair journeys to Peterborough on Saturday. Just made it all worthwhile just seeing that ball nestle into that far corner. But yeah, I think Banks has been probably one of the stars of the season. I say from what we see, I know we had that injury a few weeks ago, but he's really.
I'm glad he's come back so quickly, because I was really worried. Like after that game, he's going to be out for another.
Yeah, it didn't look a good one at the time. His ankle rolled quite badly, but I think he's a player that has to start for us now. I think he needs to be the star man. Yep. I think he can. He's got that quality. He's got that kind of persona. I feel that could take the game to opposition.
Do you think we'd have to change shape if he did start though? Because I don't see him as a wing back.
Well, like I say, we're potentially looking at the formation. Obviously, we played 2 up front. I don't know whether we could have potentially 2 kind of 10s behind a frontal. Yeah, and just to try and get both Bowler and Banks playing. I don't know how that would work, and obviously the position, but I just see that we have to use.
It's a lot of quality to leave off the bench, isn't it? You're right.
He's too good to be on the bench. Like I say, it's nice to have that quality when we've maybe got a fully fit squad, and that we've got those options. But yeah, he's been. I think he's someone that we need to potentially be looking to sign on a permanent for future years. So I think he's got some really good talent.
Naively, I think it's a transfer, unless he gets picked up elsewhere, that can be done. He didn't like it in Germany by the sounds of his first interview, and if he's going to fall in love with Evatt like we all have early doors, then fingers crossed as in a transfer we can make happen quite quickly. And if he likes the quality, then I'm sure Evatt will demand that we try and at least get it done. Martin, just before we move on to the end of the game, Josh has already said it, and I'll excuse myself for not saying it, but we picked up the ball in the defence, and I know Peterborough weren't very good, and Blackpool are usually good with their backs to the wall. We've shown a couple of times this season, despite the management style, that the likes of Huddersfield and stuff, we've got the ability to be resolute when we want to be with the quality. We know we've got the quality there, but I think generally, if I talk about the defence and the shape, although we didn't create a ridiculous amount, specifically in the second half, only had 1 shot on target. When we are breaking down play and in those moments from defence to midfield to attack, you can already see, like I've said a few times, with better quality is going to become better chances, and the likes of Fletcher will benefit from that. One great thing about the game we already spoke about is Brown's energy, but his ability to stay calm under pressure. He could have gone left, he could have gone right, but he took probably half a second more to work out what he wanted to do in that central position. And he played a delicate ball to Banks. And don't get me wrong, it's not an assist technically for the goal in terms of making the chance for Banks, but he worked out his options, obviously played the ball to the right and see what Banks could do. And he probably knew at some point, and we've seen it this season, that he was willing to have a shot on goal. And like I said, it flew into the back of the net. But Josh has already said it. The goal was great, but actually the decision making for the goal is something we haven't really seen away or at home this season.
No, I think it was a great example of moving the ball quickly with energy and with purpose rather than being ponderous, because I've watched us, admittedly, a lot of it from home, watching the away games. I remember Northampton was the game that Bruce said that it was one-way traffic. Well, it was like a traffic jam. It was all stuck on it because we don't move the ball very quickly, or we didn't. I should say past tense, because I think we will now. And that, I think a month ago we would have been happy with a point, but I think that we saw an opportunity to pick a very poor side off, and we were able to do it. But the way that Brown was great all game. I agree with Pete. He could easily have been the man of the match, and I think the way that he got that ball, got it out of his feet, shifted it quickly, and that, if he ponders on that for a little bit, we probably lose the opportunity. And that's what we need more of. We need a tempo. Tempo is really important.
Just better decision making, isn't it? And yeah, you're right. If we're working the transition the way that Evatt wants it, we'll create chances. And if Fletcher's could have gone in, Browns could have. I know they could have scored a couple, but if we're taking our chances a bit more clinically, then we could be walking away from away games, scoring 2 or 3 goals, maybe conceding 1 or 2, but we should be having the quality at the back with the shape to create and carve open these teams. And I don't think anyone in this league. Someone put it on ABFTT, 4 worse teams than us. And we know how bad Bruce has been this campaign, but I actually don't think anyone has been ridiculously outstanding. And we've all gone, why are we not playing football here? Because we'll just be 3 or 4-0 up. Plymouth was a great example of that. They were probably in a worse position than Peterborough were on Saturday in terms of having the confidence that they had, and we just let them play until they scored that goal.
Well,
and
Plymouth,
that was it, really.
Weeks, so they thought they were going to climb up the table and hit the playoffs, and then you look at the table, they've lost I think 4 on the bounce, and they're only just above us again. So it's a poor league. I think it is a really poor league. There's no outstanding teams in it this year, and I mean none, not even Huddersfield. They're a bit of a flattering to deceive a little bit. So I don't worry about us defensively. I think the key to what our success will be what we're doing in the final third, especially with having forwards out like we've got.
Tony's put it perfectly. Under Bruce, we drop deeper and deeper, and we lose the game. Whoever kept us on the front foot wasn't a blind defensive panic. It was measured and composed. Yeah, it was. We can remember what happened for 84 minutes, but in that moment where we needed to be good, he made the perfect substitutions at the perfect time, and that bit of quality paid off. A word on
that, weren't we? After the second goal as well, we didn't just sit back and
we didn't try and hold on, which is great. I think at every opportunity, apart from Bloxham doing a piss and pirouette in the box at 92nd minute when we just needed to keep the ball with 7 minutes added on, I think I just turned to Martin and went, just keep the ball. Just please keep the ball. I think Medine would have gone in the corner and just started elbowing people and making sure that, we didn't lose it. We got Bloxham turning inside and doing 360s like we're 5-0 up. I was just like, what are you doing? But yeah, absolutely. Sean's put Hansen needs to step up. He's probably our quickest wide player on par with CJ for speed. We need to get him firing. Yeah, I think he came on and made a bit of a difference in terms of being quite positive as well. Like, quality is not quite there with him, but he certainly allowed us to be a bit more free in attack as well. So, Pete, you've already kind of said it, and I want to get all 3 of your opinions on man of the match, and we've got a few in the chat as well. So let us know if you haven't put that in there, who you thought your man of the match was. But Pete, a word on Tom Bloxham. I think we can speak about a few players that had a really good game. I think Lyons have spoke about Ashworth being pretty decent, Casey and Horsfall being really important, Brown being important. But Bloxham, as the game went on, ironically, he usually looks worse or more unfit as he comes off the bench onto the pitch. 5 minutes later, he seems to be blowing this season. But on Saturday, I think there was a moment where he got tackled or fouled in 3 stages. 1 when he turned the player, 2 as he beats him, and then 3 when he gets put to the ground and the referee just says crack on. I actually thought it was one of the worst refereeing performances I've seen this campaign. I think he was absolutely dreadful for both sides. But Bloxham being hauled to the ground in 3 stages in slow motion like CCTV, when you watch it back and someone falls down continually and he just says, yeah, crack on, mate, you haven't been fouled, even though he beats his man clearly. I thought he grew with confidence, and actually he got fitter as the game went on, and his hold-up play was better. Although in the last minute really, really worried me because they went on to have a counter-attack from that, and if that was 2-2, I was going to lose my head, I think. But it all worked out quite well. But a word on Tom Bloxham, who had a fantastic game.
Yeah, I mean, I said it all earlier, really. I think it really just sums up to sum it up, is just that it just shows how naff it must have been for the last couple of months in the dressing room, because he's not the only one that's been, playing like that. So he played like we know he can play on Saturday, and it's we're under no illusion that he did it through because we've got a new manager and he's got a new lease of life. It was sour.
Yeah, it was.
You could all see it, but we need to keep that momentum going. But yeah, he had a really good game, and I'm really pleased because we need him. And I was one of his critics. I thought he'd been absolutely rubbish this season.
Yeah.
It still looks like he's carrying a wardrobe when he's tracking back, but hopefully he starts to get a bit of match sharpness. So, Josh, my last point is on Bradley Peacock-Farrell. I'm not going to criticise him too much for the goal. I thought watching it back yesterday from behind the goal, he could have dived because he knew the general direction of the ball. But I got shot down quite quickly, saying there's about 5 men in front of him and he couldn't really do much about it. But there's been a few times this season where you thought he maybe could have made a better attempt for the ball. But I'll caveat that with a bit more commanding, caught the ball several times in the first half, allowed us to not have as much pressure on, of course, by punching it. He made a decent save in the second half down to his left, where we palmed the ball. It looked like quite a weak shot from the away end, but actually it was a fairly decent shot going into the bottom corner, and he tips it around, doesn't he? And obviously in the last minute, the 93rd minute, I think I turned to Pete and reenacted his save like a karate chop punch, but the ball's flying towards him and he just fists the ball away like it was his worst enemy. He's scared of the ball, but it was an unorthodox save, and I don't know if it was necessary in terms of how he could have saved it, because I'm not a goalie, but the fact he reacted really well to that, it could have ricocheted in, but it was a fairly decent save. But overall, he had in my opinion, another solid game. And I know we're playing a lone keeper over a permanent one. I don't know what's going on there, but even Evatt's chosen to go with Bradley Peacock-Farrell, and I don't think it was his worst game. And I'm struggling to think he's an outstanding keeper, but I'm also, I'm noticing the fact that he is probably improving game on game with Blackpool.
Don't forget that with the VAR. Sorry, Josh.
There's in the first half, yeah. Could have caught that, I think. Yes, to be fair, he does make that save in the first half, and that came from us losing the ball as well in the
we're not talking about the goalkeeper position anymore. Obviously, the first few games,
he was a scapegoat, wasn't he? In my opinion, we needed someone to blame under Bruce,
and he's not played football for a long time. Like I say, he hardly had a kick apart from the first start of the season last year at Birmingham. I don't think he's a superb goalkeeper. I think he's a solid, probably League One keeper. Do I think he's flat-footed at times for shots at certain moments, potentially, yeah. And do I think he's a bit not mobile in terms of, like I say, how he is with shot saving and things like that. So he does make some big saves. Like I say, Wickham last week, he made a really big save towards the end of the game. And in terms of stop shotting, I think he's fairly solid. But yeah, like I say, it's not ideal that he's still a lone keeper at the moment. But I think we've got bigger fires in the pitch rather than talking about the goalkeeper, which is a nice change from where we were at the start of the season.
Do you think he'll play on Saturday in the Cup, or do you think they'll swap it?
No, I think Ravs
will play. Yeah.
I think Bardsley or Ravs.
We'll see, won't
we? Ravazoli.
Yeah, I think Ravazoli. Well, there's something gone. If Ravazoli's not in goal for the FA Cup against Scunthorpe, and just to highlight Everett's passion about winning the game, I'm not saying it's just Scunthorpe. They're in ridiculously good form. And the preview which will be out tonight or tomorrow. They're quite confident that they're going to come to us with a game plan, and they'll set up in a. It sounds like Butler for Scunthorpe will set up exactly differently every single game, and he'll change it at any given time just to either confuse the opposition or how he thinks he'll gain an extra yard in that. So I think Evatt is right to take this game seriously, but if I don't think if he's at least trying Ravazoli for this game, something has gone on in the background, because it's not potentially a stupid decision to play Peacock-Farrell. He can do what he wants, but I think if you're going to play Peacock-Farrell every game, what's the point in signing Ravazoli in the first place? So I don't know, but yeah, we'll move on. Martin, just lastly before we select our man of the match, the end of the game, there was a few photos around social media. The videos speak for themselves, but obviously Banks coming over to the away end first, but all the players pushing Evatt towards the fans, clapping him, smiling, laughing. it was just a group of players that want to enjoy football again. And I think what Evatt's done in those first 5 days with Cranes and everyone else is just, I think, maybe a massive shadow over this football club, not to criticise Bruce's size, but a massive shadow and an aura about a legend being in the club, but obviously being quite lazy when it comes to being a manager of this team and wanting to win for one reason or the other is obviously been now completely wiped away. And what Evatt firstly brought on Saturday in such a short period of time, the relief to win his first game, the smiles on the players' faces, is a perfect day really. But to see a human being enjoy a win like that, but also obviously it's a massive, I say monkey off his back, but to win his first game in charge must have been an incredible feeling for a legend of this football club, and long may it continue.
Well, we said it when he was appointed that he desperately wants to be here, and it shows. To win your first game is like stuff that dreams are made of if you're Ian Evatt, and the reaction was everything you want to see. The players were sometimes even when you see a football team win, they kind of politely clap and they smile and they go, "Yeah, thank you very much. See you later." They were loving it again as if it was the most important game they played in years. And I think the enthusiasm and I think a lot of those players are just relieved there's been a change. And I think we as a fan base are relieved, and it's good to see that somebody is there who really, really, really actually genuinely loves the club he's at. Because that's not just sound bites from Evatt. He actually wants to be. He's obviously coveted the job for a long time. I don't know if you've ever had a manager that's got the job and said, "God, I've always wanted to be manager of Blackpool." If we're being honest, pros come in, do a job, but Evatt actually loves this club and I believe he's very good at it. So it was just great to see a united kind of playing squad and fan base, and we haven't seen that since Critchley first time round, have we?
No, I agree with you there. Josh, we've got to temper those flames, and my burning flame to be really like impulsive and love Evatt, and he can't do anything wrong. Is probably going to be overwhelmingly in favour for the first few weeks, but we've got to temper those, the enthusiasm a little bit, enjoy it while we're there. But I think actually Evatt used what Kurt says for the last 3 years in this pod: don't get too high with highs and don't get too low with lows. And Evatt used that in the first week he was in the building. So shout out to Kurt for that one. But I think that's the perfect sort of analogy to use when it comes to this football club. We are a patient fan base, aren't we? We're patient with Bruce, we're patient with Critchley. Despite us obviously moaning, we'll still turn up at, home and away. And I think with Evatt, we will be patient regardless. I think it's unfair to say otherwise, but we've got to be on his vision with him, haven't we? And as long as we see progression and his enthusiasm, I think it's a relationship potentially, a match made in heaven. And as much as I wanted Wellens over Evatt, those 9 months look like they've done in the world of good.
No, definitely. I think, like I say, I keep repeating these next few weeks and months, it's going to be not pretty. I don't think it will be what Evatt wants, the type of football that he would want to be playing. I think he will try and get that identity still there in some respect. And you could see that on Saturday. And I think there was some positive shoots in terms of what Evatt was trying to implement into the players. But yeah, it's going to, like I say, we've got Cardiff next in the league in a week on Saturday. I thought that's going to be a big litmus test and see how those 3 weeks by the time we play Cardiff have been on the training pitch. And they were quite. I watched the Wrexham game a few days ago, and they were quite good. I think they've got some really impressive players. So that'd be
unreal, wasn't he?
He was really good. So yeah, it'll be a good test. And I say, if we can win that game, just imagine the breed of confidence that we'll put into the squad and more players becoming available and things like that. It's just, yeah, that's what we want. So, but I think we also understand the position with injuries as well. And I think our expectations are these next few weeks is literally just try and get as many points as we can over that period.
Honeyman train is going to give us a breath of fresh air, isn't it? So,
yeah, 100%.
Right, gents, 1 hour 10 in. It's been a jam-packed pod, and it's been a decent pod. I think it's been fairly balanced with tempered our enthusiasm a little bit. I was really excited coming away on Saturday, and I'm really excited for the future. But Pete, I will start with you because you've been silent for a little while. Give us your man of the match and the reasons why. I think you've already said Brown, but just give us a little bit of insight into
I think it's going to be C. I think it's going to
be. You nearly got kicked out of the room there.
Well, I'd like to give it to Eva, really, but he wasn't playing, was he? I think Brown, closely followed by Horsfall, I think.
Pick one, mate.
Yeah.
It's got one. Brown. Yosh, give us your man of the match and why.
Horseful, like I say, a proper leader performance at the back, colossal at times, and was that his first 90 in the league as well.
Yeah.
So, yeah, really impressive performance, and hopefully we see more of that over the next few weeks.
There was one moment when they were on the counter and he was running behind the ball and he back killed it away from danger as well, didn't he? I thought that was a class bit of defending. So, yeah, I think that's a fair shout. And Martin, before we come on to, I'll leave you on a cliffhanger, everyone, before we talk about Martin's man of the match. But we've got Big Dog Walker. Thanks again for all your comments tonight, mate. You've been really appreciative. Horseful, I think, yeah, same reasons for Yosh, really. Who have we got? MB Ashworth. He Martin, fair point. There was I think a moment in the second half. When he got fouled, wasn't it, for Evans's free kick?
Yep.
When he turns inside two players. Yeah. I don't think it's a foul at all. I think he dives, but this ref was a bit crazy. But yeah, to the fact that we saw, our centre/left back sort of come that far up the pitch and cut inside two players, and and a couple of more yards in, they potentially could have been a penalty. But great to see from him in an attacking point of view, but also that yellow card was a disgrace, first and foremost. I know he kind of pulled him back, but he fell to the floor right in front of the linesman, and I think it was a fairly decent game from him as well.
Yeah, he was, he's one of those players that we thought maybe didn't have much of a future at Blackpool, but, Evatt had him on loan at Bolton.
Strong as well, isn't he? I think he's quite strong.
Better player than I ever gave him credit for. I genuinely thought he was a lightweight, kind of, not really up for it, or up to it, but no, he was superb. He was really. I think he was good against Wickham as well. I just think he's over the past month he's really stepped up, and when he's needed to play, he's played, and it's like having a new signing.
Yeah, for sure. Sean said Brown man of the match. I think that's 2 for Brown, 2 for Horseful, 3 for Horseful with Tony. I think that's a fair shout. Can't have 2. Big Dog Walker, pick one. Brown or Horseful, I'll be happy with either. Again, fair comments. I think there were 2 shining lights in the team as well. And I think. Here we got any more. Quite a few comments, but none. Oh, Dave has gone with man of the match, Bloxham.
Wow.
Okay. Fair comment. I think he worked really hard and, is an important part of the team. But Martin, give us your man of the match before we end the pod.
Oh, Horseful. But Brown not far, but Horseful.
Yeah, I think so. Tony's just quickly put Ashworth is another who's proven Bruce's decision making so wrong. Yeah. I think Tony doesn't like Bruce very much. Tony's also really excited about having a forward-thinking dive for the badge, tangerine legend of a manager. I think you're spot on. I think, to be fair, we don't know how this is going to work out, but my reservations were quite high on Evatt. But I think if there's any player in the world and who enjoys management more than playing, and if he enjoys management more than he plays and the way he played, I think we're going to see, an incredible manager potentially for Blackpool. I know it's really early doors, but someone that we can relate to and care about again is something we've desperately needed over the years as well. So I think on that note, gents, I'm going to end the pod. Yosh, thank you for coming in last minute, mate. It's been a pleasure to have you on, and your insights have been brilliant. So thank you. Thanks, Tom. Thanks both. No worries. Peter, CJ, Dixon, and thank you for coming on, sir. It's been a pleasure to have you back on the pod. And you agreed with us on CJ, so we're turning you slowly, mate. I know you couldn't odds it, could I? No, absolutely not. But thank you, mate. I really appreciate coming on, giving us your insight. Good to see you. All good to see you on Saturday as well. I think we need to go all the time. Yeah, well, it would be my dream, mate. But I would be a divorced man, which I have no comment to whether that be positive or not. Martin, great to spend the day with you on Saturday, mate, and thanks for joining the pod and giving your insight as usual. Been great to. It's like a new pod. It's like I'm on a different podcast at the moment, new faces. Yeah. And the only thing I would say is, if anyone's umming and ahhing about Saturday and you live in Blackpool on the Fylde Coast, get to the game because you can't stream it. So it'd be really good to see a lot of people there for Evatt's first game. I know it's the FA Cup. I know it's a National League side, but you know what? It's a game at home, and Evatt's in charge, and he thinks it's important. So let's see we can get as many, at least in the north, as possible. Absolutely, yeah. Good rallying call that. Mm-hmm. Thanks for the comments, guys. Thanks, Sean. Thank you, Tony. Thank you, MB. Thank you for all the comments. Again, It's been a delightful change of pace and thought process, and we can enjoy an away win, which is brilliant. Thanks, lads. See you all Saturday for the FA Cup. Yeah, Tony. On that note, just to let everybody know who hasn't seen on X or not on social media, we have a Scunthorpe preview already done. It's on Patreon at the moment, so if you want to join Patreon, it'll be on there. If not, it'll be public release tomorrow morning for you to listen to. It's a really good half an hour with a fantastic Scunthorpe fan. To be fair, they've been through a ridiculous amount of pain, as we did as Blackpool and football fans overall. So it was interesting to hear their story on that and their manager, etc., and what they'll bring to us on Saturday. But from all of us at the It's Not Orange podcast, we'll see you again soon for the Scunthorpe review and a Cardiff preview. Thank you.